Joe Burrow has completed his first full training camp. So, what should we expect from number 9 this season? That plus the most impressive rookie and a fantasy football preview Bengals edition right here on Enter the Jungle. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. He is Andrew Fox Miller. Please check us out every single Tuesday at 8 Eastern, all season long, right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk by hitting that subscribe button, ringing the bell, or catching us weekly on Bally Sports. We're part of the Big Play Network and presented by Garage Beer. You see that over my left shoulder, Andrew? A little
Oh,
Garage Beer lime.
are we in the
Ooh.
same room, James?
Oh,
Like, wait,
we
I should
must
have
be.
lined the cameras up, could have just synced them right up.
Look at that. Literally, we're talking about our logos and Garage Beer, baby, because that's what Enter the Jungle is here for, is a little Cincinnati Bengals talk and some Garage Beer. Let's get into some Bengals talk,
Okay.
Andrew, by talking about Mr. Bengal, the number one Bengal, the guy
Mr.
that
Bengal.
I mean, he is. He's the most important man in that building when he's there. Joe Burrow participated in all but one of the Bengals practices throughout training camp. He did everything that I think everyone was expecting him or hoping that he would do throughout camp. I mean, you're talking about 2 joint practices, a preseason game. That preseason game ended in a touchdown, the one drive that he was in on the field against the Buccaneers. So with that said, being the giant Bengals fan, I'm not going to call you Mr. Bengal, but you're obviously a huge Bengals fan. What are your expectations for number 9 going into this season?
I've mentally prepared myself to not go into the season and think of it the same way I thought about camp, which was just get through it healthy. Just get through it healthy. You did. So let's move beyond that. That's what I'm telling myself. It's what I'm going to tell Bengals fans out there. Let's move beyond that. At the very least, let's go into this season. Obviously, we talk about starting fast and not going through what we've seen historically in the Joe Burrow era, starting out the regular season. At the end of the day, like championships, that's it. That's what we need. But if we take a step back and we say, hey, listen, I liked what I saw from Joe Burrow prior to his injury in November of 2023. Can I get that momentum? Can I find and pick up from where that momentum was in the month of September? Could that happen? Maybe even in the month of October. I want that Joe Burrow to get caught up with what we saw, push it forward, take it to the next level, be the franchise. That's what I want. Is that asking too much? Yeah, I'm asking you, James. Is it?
No, that's not asking too much. I'm going to ask for more.
Okay.
Which shocker, right?
Yeah, you tend to do that.
I'm pushing it. Of course, my expectations, I feel like, are always like, it's just how it is. That's just how I'm wired. And you know this probably better than anyone. I want him and I want this Bengals team a month from now, a little over at the end of September, when they go to Carolina and win, and they're at least 3-1, at least 3-1. And when you look at their schedule, you have the Patriots, then you got to go to Kansas City, and then you have Washington at home and then Carolina on the road. By the end of that, whether it's 3-1 or 4-0, we need to be talking about, oh, is this team the top team in the AFC? Is this team led by the MVP? Those are the discussions that I'm expecting Joe Burrow to be in. Leading the Bengals to top of the NFL type discussions and MVP discussions. He's done everything else. He's done the comeback player of the year. He's led this team to an AFC championship and with inches away from a Super Bowl. You can't win a Super Bowl in September. But you know what you can do? You can say that we're one of the best teams in the league. In the past couple of years, they've started 0-2. It's been ugly for various reasons that we don't need to get into. Obviously, health has been a huge factor here. Well, now you have the reps. You're going to have your team intact, whole from a weapons standpoint, after all the drama surrounding that wide receiver room. And you have some weapons that we're going to talk about coming up from a fantasy standpoint that I think are pretty intriguing. So you mix all of that together with an offensive line that should be pretty darn good. We talked about the offensive line last week. I need to see Joe Burrow play the best ball of his career.
Yeah, the things that some fans, myself included, I've said it on this show, that we consider noise in the offseason. NFL top 100. Where's Joe Burrow? Isn't this a problem? Why are they disrespecting Joe Burrow? All those things that we consider noise, it can still be noise, except I want Burrow's name, in that top 2-3 discussion among a lot of categories. Again, still noise. But now that will feel normal to me. That will meet expectations for me. So Burrow has to do exactly what you're saying in order to get that recognition, to be at, to be at the forefront of discussion. Absolutely.
I'm just dying at you right now
Why?
because I can't believe you had the nerve to bring up the NFL top 100 when you're the one that was okay with it. Of the two of us, you were the one that was okay with him being ranked darn near 40th.
In the context of what happened in November of 23, that's what I said.
Nope. Doesn't
We're
matter.
back. We're back, James. We're back. So now
It's
this is what needs to happen next. That's it. Doesn't change. That doesn't change my opinion. You could roll that clip. I don't care. I stand by what I said then in that context. This is different. I'm looking ahead. Jeez.
it's embarrassing that you said that.
It's
It's embarrassing. But you know
it's
what's not
definitely
embarrassing?
but it's not because of me.
You know what's not embarrassing? When Joe Burrow hangs 40 on the Panthers' head at the end of September and they have a chance to potentially go 4-0. I think 4-0, it's pretty realistic. And I know what I'm saying there. But I know what this town does, by the way, when the Bengals start at that level. The 05 team, my favorite Bengals team of all time, the 05 Bengals, you know how they started? 4-0. We'll see if the Bengals can do that this year. Obviously, expectations high for Joe Burrow. Expectations are also high for a rookie class that has a lot of talent. The Bengals had 10 draft picks. Which rookies impressed us the most this training camp? We will answer that question coming up next. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He is Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. Make sure you catch us every single Tuesday at 8 Eastern on Cincinnati Bengals Talk, weekly on Bally Sports. And Andrew, let's get into a talented rookie class for the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of rookies were impressive. I mean, Amarius Mims, if he doesn't get nicked up in camp, maybe we're talking about Amarius Mims, the starting right tackle. Chris Jenkins, we saw him rack up a sack in Chicago, and I think he certainly bounced back after a slow start to his preseason. Those are the first couple of Bengals picks. I didn't mention Jermaine Burton and his 156 receiving yards and 2 out of 3 offensive touchdowns during preseason. I mean, you could go down the list here round by round, and there's a guy or 2 or 3, if you're looking at day 3 guys that were impressive. Who impressed you the most during camp and preseason from this rookie class?
This is really tough. I do want to say that I can't remember the last time that I've looked at a rookie draft class, especially draft class in this case, where I've looked at it and gone, they've either met or exceeded what I would have expected out of them. Like, pretty much across the board, which is insane to me. I'm going to give a shout out to Matt Lee. I was very high on Matt Lee. I did not expect him to do what he did during this camp, during this preseason. I didn't expect him to come on this quickly. And from a starting standpoint, the opportunities aren't going to be necessarily there this year. So there's that. But I love knowing we have that depth, somebody that can step in and potentially play for a rookie, especially at a high level. So love it. Jermaine Burton, there's the whole thing with him. I love the way he performed. He's the most exciting and most electric that we saw this camp in preseason. But I still kind of leaning Amarius Mims. I am. And it's the pedigree, I'll admit, but it's also the fact that I did not, right? We talked about it. I didn't expect him to come in and challenge having a starting role as quickly as he did. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of promise there. More to come, but man, I love what I saw in Amarius Mims. I feel so good about him being a part of that offensive line for years to come.
Yeah, the answer is Amarius Mims, and it's because of how he's handled himself off the field as well. Yeah. When you combined it all. I mean, you go back pre-draft, everyone talks about the Jermaine Burton character stuff pre-draft, and that's fine. And I'm going to get to Burton in a second. You look at Mims, people were questioning his character and his work ethic. There's been nothing said bad about Mims. None. I mean, it's been hard worker, trying to get better, from praise from Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, Dan Pitcher. I mean, all these guys. And so it's easy to see the path to him being great in the NFL. I think Chris Jenkins is someone that was just going to come in and be a pro right away. And I've seen that, and that is impressive because that's hard to do. And it's hard to do because there's a lot of times that a guy like Jermaine Burton and the sleeping through meetings, whatever, right? I take that as what it is, which is maybe it happened. You know what else did happen and we know happened? He put up a buck 56, 2 touchdowns, had the Bengals' longest reception in all 3 preseason games. So he clearly has the talent. That is impressive. The thing that I hope he can get down is obviously the work ethic, character stuff, but it's playbook. That's why he's not getting on the field with Joe right now. It's not because of special teams or not being buttoned up. It's because you got to be able to earn the trust. And that's really hard to do. Charlie Jones went through that last year. I think Andre Josevich had to go through that some and was able to do that. And that's why you saw those red zone touchdowns, those back shoulder throws from Joe Burrow in the middle of last season. Like that's a big trust thing. And so I hope Jermaine can get there because most impressive in games was Jermaine because he was their best receiver by far this preseason. It's not even close. And that's a dynamic that could really add to this team, even if he's just the deep ball guy. I've said this to a few people. If he ends up with, let's say, 22 catches, 200 yards, and 4 touchdowns, that's pretty darn good. If or 22 catches, averaging 18 to 20 yards a catch. Excuse me, not 200 yards. It would be 400 yards. My math was really bad there. I blame you for that, Andrew. But the point is, if he can be your deep ball guy, I take that in year one. Maybe he has more. And at the same time, whether it's a Matt Lee, all these mid-round guys, I like Eric All. I think he's been impressive.
Josh Newton was up there for me too.
Josh Newton. I just think Amarius kind of towers literally and for this exercise over the rest of these guys for one reason or another. If Burton got that playbook down,
yep.
If he was buttoned up, then we could be having a different conversation.
Jermaine Burton, you just got to get into, as James would put, Mr. Bengals circle of trust. We just got to get there. We'll get there.
I think he's trying to. I mean, he'll chat with Burrow. It's a football thing too, man. This is not an easy offense. I was talking to Eric All about this. This is not an easy offense to pick up. And the thing I love about Eric All, by the way, that dude has a little fight to him now. And I saw him mix it up with the Colts during the joint practice. He's not afraid to do that, and I love that. That's the thing. You don't necessarily get to see these rookies do that. And in preseason, you don't want to do that because you risk getting cut. But in these joint practices, they mix it up a little bit. He mixed it up and he handled his own. I like it. I like guys that are going to stand up for their teammates, stand up for themselves, and be willing to block, catch, do all the things that Eric All can do. So certainly an honorable mention for him. We have to go from real football to fantasy football. Should you target Jermaine Burton in your fantasy drafts? What about Joe Burrow, Zach Moss, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins? We'll discuss it next. The NFL season is almost here, which means it's fantasy football time. And if you're looking for fantasy football advice, well, of course you should come to Enter the Jungle. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. We're going to have to remind them, Andrew. Stay right there, Andrew. We're going to have to remind the people. We are fantasy champions here. That's right. Dan Klaskin's Dream League. We have the trophy. We're the champs, so you should take our advice here. Mwah.
Oh, wow.
You see that? Woo, baby. It's ours. I'm gonna kiss it again. Mwah.
Listen, I'm just going to need you to sanitize that trophy now. We'll just leave it at that.
The Bengals, they want, and they should be able to help you bring home a fantasy football trophy this year. I don't know who you're targeting, Andrew. We're in some leagues. We have some drafts coming up, so I should probably lie to you right now. But I look at some of these ADPs in average draft position for those wondering. Joe Burrow is the 7th overall quarterback. T. Higgins is the 28th overall receiver. Jamar Chase, the 4th overall receiver. Those are sort of the big three. Let's start there. Of those three, given their draft position, who would you target or who are you most likely to target?
I mean, I love it. To be clear, for PPR, got to go after Jamar Chase, obviously. I'm not worried about quarterback anytime soon in a PPR league. I'm just not. Now, I like that Burrow's not top 5 for fantasy football purposes. Probably could take advantage of that. Sure, why not? But I don't feel like anyone's being disrespected here just yet. I don't feel like anyone's being overvalued or undervalued. They're kind of where I would have expected them.
Yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying there. I'll tell you, T. Higgins. I watched him all camp. Watched him all camp. Looks amazing. Has the trust with Joe Burrow, the 28th overall receiver. He's going to be a top 12 fantasy wide receiver this year, I think. And
Top
I hate
12.
because I think he's going to have like 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Wow.
I do. He looks awesome. And so
Okay.
like the best he's ever looked. And so instead of throwing 2 extra bubble screens to Jamar like they've done in the past, how about you lob one up the T and let him go get it? You know what I'm saying, my friend? So yeah, I think T certainly someone I'm targeting. Hopefully you're sleeping on. God, I can't believe I just told you that. We're in leagues together, Andrew, and I'm giving you my secret formula here. Other guys, whether it's Zach Moss, Chase Brown, Andre Yosevich, Mike Gesicki, anyone else you targeting, Andrew? Late round guys, mid round guys that you want on your roster?
Late rounds. That's where this is the area that I love. And for me, Mike Gesicki is very interesting to me. You're telling me that of tight ends, available tight ends in the NFL, he's at the bottom basically of the 32 teams. Like if you go one tight end per team, which you might not even do, 26th PPR. Like I'm not saying that Gesicki is going to be getting you a touchdown every single game, but I think he's at minimum getting 2 to 3 receptions, and what he does with those receptions, I'm feeling pretty good about. So 26th, I think he should be top. I would make the argument easily top 20, but I think he should probably be in the top 15 conversation with upside from a PPR standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I think he probably has more value in standard, but I get your point. And the standard is because I do think he's going to score a bunch of touchdowns. I do think he's going to be that red zone threat, that red zone weapon. When teams are like, all right, I'm tired of T. Higgins going up for it, and we know Jamar Chase, we're going to double team these guys. Well, then Joe's like, oh, okay, well, I have a 6'5" basketball player that can dunk on your head, and I'm just going to throw it up to him. And they've certainly built a chemistry there. So I think that one's interesting. The 2 running backs, so Zach Moss is going ahead of Chase Brown in PPR drafts right now, 32nd. He's the 32nd ranked running back. Chase Brown, 37th. They're pretty close, 90th overall, 113th overall. I prefer Brown. I think he has more upside. Yeah. Ideally, you would get both if you have one, because I think you'd have the handcuff there. But to me, I would roll with the upside. I think Brown is going to be the more explosive back.
Realistically, they're going to be flex plays until further notice. I don't think anyone really knows what to expect from them from a production standpoint, as far as, sharing carries and touches and things like that. So, yeah, but I think Chase Brown is going to be potentially, to your point, maybe the more explosive player that's going to, I think he's going to impress early. We'll see how sustainable it is from a fantasy standpoint, but he would be the one that I'd be targeting first.
Let's continue with the fantasy football conversation. Andrew talked about Joe Burrow. My thoughts on the Bengals star from a fantasy perspective. Plus, who would you want to own out of Andre Yosevich, Jermaine Burton, Charlie Jones, the sleeper wide receivers in the Bengals room? We'll get to that as well coming up next. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. He is Andrew Fox Miller. Our fantasy football segment continues. And I got to say, I know you don't think quarterbacks matter, Andrew, but the way I'm leading the show with thinking that Joe Burrow should be in the MVP race the first 4 weeks, this new look offense, I'm really bullish on T. Higgins. We obviously know what Jamar Chase is as a player. Plus, you're loving Mike Gesicki's value. We're leery of the running backs because we know they're going to pass it. I think Joe Burrow is a great value as the 7th quarterback, because he's probably, if he reaches my expectations. Now, there is some injury stuff, of course, from a fantasy standpoint. You don't want to risk that. But I think if he stays healthy, we're talking about a top 5 fantasy quarterback this season.
And that's fair. And a warning to those of you that are kind of like me, where like, I can wait on quarterback. It's a bit of a fall off after Burrow. I mean, you could factor in like, there's like Burrow, Jordan Love, if you're drafting. And then it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to do Brock Purdy? Like, what are you going to...
You putting Jordan Love in the same category as Joe Burrow?
As far as average draft position, yes, that's what's happening.
Would you take Love over Burrow?
No.
Why are you hesitating?
And I don't say that lightly. It's just because I've got one season to work off with Jordan Love. If I had a little bit more to work with, I think I could probably... It's close to a coin flip, though, from a fantasy standpoint.
No, it's not.
Who would I rather have as my quarterback in the NFL? Joe Burrow, but...
It's not. It isn't.
Oh, my God.
Why is it? Anyways, whatever. Just because Jordan Love helped us win this trophy right here. Ah,
Don't start kissing it. I don't think we've cleared that
mwah.
with Bally or anything yet. I
I'm
don't
just
even
gonna
know
read
if
this
that.
right here.
Oh my
I'll
god.
just out of these receivers, these sleeper wide receivers, I'll throw Trenton Irwin's name in the mix as well. Jermaine Burton, Andre Yosavash, Trenton Irwin, and Charlie Jones. Is there one you prefer the most? The two being drafted in normal sized leagues are Jermaine Burton and Andre Yosavash.
I like if I'm grabbing Burton as my sixth wide receiver, I really like that. Just stashing him and seeing what happens. I think the upside's tremendous, obviously.
Mhm.
Yosavash, if I need that kind of plug in during a bye week or I'm kind of streaming him based off of a matchup, I'm going to feel a little bit better than about him starting the season. But like for the long run, I give me the exciting play. Give me Burton with the I would go Burton.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm honestly, I'm not trying up with any of these guys. And it is tough because I
Yeah.
like Andre as a player. I like Jermaine as a player. And the other element here, if you're a Cincinnati based league, is these guys usually go earlier than their ADP because Bengals fans want them on their team. That being said, Jermaine, certainly more exciting. We'll see if I get him in your league. We have a draft coming up. Might have had to reschedule it because Andrew's schedule is just so busy. But I digress.
We don't have time for another segment. You could do an entire segment about whatever you're about to get to. I know what it is too.
He is Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. That is going to do it for us this week. Next week, we'll preview week 1, Bengals Patriots. We're almost there, Bengals fans. Until next time, for Andrew, I'm James. Thank you so much for watching. Enter the jungle.